Testing leads to failure, and failure leads to understanding. When we do testing, we will find out what doesn't work. And when we know what doesn't work, we can stop doing it. But even better, when we figure out why it didn't work, then we can prevent it from happening again. Welcome to Testing, Learning, Refining, Part 5 of our From Idea to Innovation series. I'm your host, David. And if at any time during this video you feel, hey, this is good stuff, then please hit the like button below, subscribe and share with your friends. If you don't like it, you have constructive critics, you want to give me your feedback, please feel free to do so as well in the comments below. But now, with no further ado, we're jumping into today's presentation. Anyone can be an innovator, step by step. That's how we started about 5 weeks ago, by giving you an overview of the whole design thinking process. And then we moved through the process over the last 3 weeks by bringing empathizing and defining closer to you. We had a full session about ideation where we introduced you to different ideation techniques. Some of them are quite suitable to work in the remote working environment that we're living in right now as well. And then finally, last week, we were talking about how you can build low fidelity prototypes quickly and you can have them ready for testing in no time. Less than 1 week, some of the prototypes can be built within a couple of hours. And today we close our design thinking journey with an introduction to how you test and what you want to test to find out if your product, if your service or your organizational change is going to be successful or does have a high chance to be successful. So let's see, what do we want to test? We want to test if our service product change is feasible, which is the technology. We want to test if it's viable, which is the commercial side of things. Obviously that applies if we're talking business. If it's a hobby thing, then the viability factor is not that important. But most of us, I assume, are interested in making a living out of something they're passionate about. So you have to have a positive cash flow at some point in your forecast, and that's what you find out when you look at viability. And the focus for today is desirability. Will your customers, your users, like what you give to them? Are they going to use it? Feasibility, depending on what's your product, what's your service, feasibility is, wait a second for me, I am a little bit confused right now. Here we go. Feasibility is what your tech people, or is yourself a tech person, what your tech people will tell you. Can they build it? If it's a technical thing, if it's a organizational structure, your business team will tell you if they can implement your changes. That is testing you can do internally. You do not need a customer, a user for that. The tech people will know how they can test and validate if they can build it. Same viability, your commercial side of business or your commercial co-founder, or if it's yourself, they will know how to create a business plan and what information they need for a business plan, and they can go through circles and circles, iterations over and over again until they can give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down that it is a viable business idea, that they can create sufficient revenue to sustain and grow your business. The important bit for today is desirability. Will your customers, your clients, your users really love what you design for them? Do Do they want it? Are they happy to pay money for it? Are you creating value for them? And you can both of your, just because you can build it doesn't mean that it's a good idea. Viability, so feasibility, even if you can build it, it might not fly as a product. We've seen that with several products out there. You can go back to our prototyping session from last week, the video where we introduced the Google Class. It was technically a beautiful product, but the customers just didn't want it. They did not accept it in their lives. So it was a commercial flop. And that's what you want to avoid, and that's why you want to go testing with your target audience, with your target users, customers, as early as possible in the design process. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because we want to avoid that the same thing happens to you what happens to Coca-Cola in 1985. Some of you might be old enough, some of you might have seen the commercials somewhere on YouTube or elsewhere on the internet. In the early 80s, Coca-Cola and Pepsi had a commercial fight on TV. So they were fighting each other in commercials. And it was a very successful campaign from Pepsi, where they invited a Coke drinker and the Coke delivery drivers actually to try a Pepsi. And then the Coke delivery drivers figured out that, hey, they like Pepsi probably a little bit more than Coke. So Pepsi got the upper hand back then over Coke in the growth section of business. And that's when Coca-Cola decided, hey, let's introduce a new Coke. Let's make Coke taste a little bit more like Pepsi Cola. So they worked on the recipe for a while. I think they spent about 50 million to 100 million into it and into the marketing campaign. And then they introduced the product and it flopped. Guess what? Coke drinker didn't want to have a Pepsi in a Coke can. They just wanted to have a Coke. And if they desired to have a Pepsi, then they would have bought a Pepsi. Coke learned. It was a mistake. They figured out no one wants the new Coke. So they brought back the old Coke, called it Coke Classic, and never talked about it again. Coca-Cola company was quite healthy back then already. We're talking about 10 billion US turnover and 600, 700 million revenue after tax. So they could swallow a loss of 100 million easily. But most of us in the startup world, early stage founders, early stage startups, we can't afford to sink too many product releases in the abyss. We have to create revenue quickly, and we only do that when we bring MVPs, early stage products into the market that are actually desirable for our clients, and that our clients will experience value that they're happy to pay for. So how do we do user testing? What are we going to test? Why are we going to test it? When? Who we are testing it with? Where are we testing it? And how are we going to do that? The why. To truly know what works, you have to learn what doesn't work first. We want to know what's working and what isn't working. And especially what isn't working. We have to avoid bringing a product out to the market that isn't working. So the why is clear. We can't fail. We want to avoid to fail. We want to fail in an early stage of the product development process when it is cheaper to fail. We can't afford to fail in the later stage of the product development process when it will cost us a lot of money and we might disgruntle already existing customer base. That's why we do the testing. What are we going to test with our users, with our clients? We test the functionality and our means of deliver the functionality and the value to our customers and users. And we do that through interaction with our in between the product and the customer. Because customers might do the unexpected with our product, and that's what we want to learn. They might break it, which is unfortunate, but will help us to bring a better product to life. But they might also show us that there is functionality in our product that we didn't envision when we ideated it, when we prototyped it. But they naturally see other options, other opportunities to use our products and services. And that's stuff that we want to know. Who are we testing it with? When you go back 2 weeks to now I'm hard pressed, part 2 or part 3 of the series from idea to innovation, we were talking about persona. So we have defined our ideal customer or ideal customers, and we created personas like this one for each of the groups. And obviously we want to test with those personas, those ideal customers that we have described in the earlier process, earlier stage of the design thinking process. And we want to test it with those customers that are covering the 80% of the market that we're targeting. And to make sure that that happens, we have to test with sufficient people to identify outliers. If we only test 2 and one of those 2 people is in the group of the some people, then we might get false information from them. So we want to test with at least 10 people, I would say, so we can cut the outliers on the top and the bottom, each one off, and focus on the 8 test results from the middle of the bunch. The larger the group, the better, but obviously the more complex your test, the more time and resource intensive your testing is. It is harder to do that with a larger group, but yeah, the more the merrier. Find a healthy balance. You can do in-depth testing with a smaller group of probably up to 10 people, and then you can use those results to create a test for a larger group that is less extensive, and then you can test with 100, 200 people to get more data points. When and where do we want to test? We want to test where the people are going to use it and when the people are going to use it. If you design, for example, a ride-sharing app, Uber, Didi, Ola, or whatever else is out there, allowing people to test it when they're sitting at home on their couch and they're about to go to bed does not make sense. You want the environment and the test conditions to be as realistic as possible. Most of the time I use ride-sharing apps is when I'm running late already, the weather sucks, and I just or there is no public transport running anymore because it's in the middle of the night. That's when I want to use when I use ride-sharing apps. So if you have kids right now for homeschooling, then test with those kids when they do their homework at home right now. Get a school on board, explain it to the teachers, to the management of the school, why it is a good idea, and then let them help you spread it out to their students and get it tested quickly. How do we test? We test like the 3 monkeys. We want our test objects, our users, our customers, not to see or hear anything from us while they are using the product. That is the ideal environment. And we're not giving them any advice how to use the product besides of the instructions that are embedded in the product or are coming with the product. Because only when we let them test the way they would use it in a real world environment, if it's a physical product that they receive via mail, how they unbox it and how they get started with it is how we want to experience them using our prototypes in the testing phase. So we do not interfere. We keep ourselves as far as away from the situation as it allows us without losing any information. And we're not saying anything either. It is quite common practice. Scientists are having the saying that the results of an experiment is changed just by watching the experiment. And the same applies here. As soon as we watch, we change the behavior of our test objects already a little bit, just because they know that they are watched. But we want to do it as passively as possible. And we want to have a baseline that we can test against. So obviously with the first prototype, with the first test series that we're going on, we do not have that baseline. So the first test series is, the purpose of that is to create that baseline. With any further tests that is coming after the first test, we're comparing those results with the base test. And when we make changes in between one test series and the next test series, we only make one change. So we know that when the behavior, the feedback of the test objects, the users, the customers is changing, that this is directly correlated to that one change that we applied. As soon as we introduce multiple changes in between two test series, we're just losing track of what causes what. Cause and effect are not directly correlated anymore. So yeah, test with a baseline, do A/B testing when you do a software development, for example, or an app development. There are online tools available which you can do A/B testing with. Sending two different versions of a website out to your users, two different versions of the user interface of a mobile application, and you can collect the data which one works better. And if that's your first test, then you take the one that works better, and that's your baseline for your next test. Always work with a control group so you can measure the improvement that each and every change is making. Testing a product is a learning process. We've heard now about learning quite a lot through the whole design thinking process, and you might be wondering, holy, is it all about learning? And yes, it is. The whole design thinking process, from empathy, when we start talking to our clients, over the ideation process, building the prototypes, in each and every stage we're active learners. We understand the needs of our customers better through the process, and we understand the functionality and the shortcomings and the plus points of our products and services better with each and every step that we take in the design thinking process. The important bit is we keep learning through the process, but we bring stuff to market at some point as well, because there is no value created if we just learn without creating value for others as well. That's the quick summary. That's the of today's session. We're about in the 20-minute mark of the presentation. As every time, this is supposed to be an interactive design thinking introduction. If you're with us for the whole journey, you might have done all the homework, the challenges that we have prepared for you. If not, if you're new to this video series, feel free to jump back. You do not have to watch all of the videos if you don't want to. Just in the last 5 minutes of each and every video, there will be the slide with the challenge where we explain what you can do yourself to actually get your own project moving along the design thinking process. For today, the homework, the challenge is that you take one of your low fidelity prototypes that you've created after last week's video. You adjust them, you did your internal testing when you built the prototype, so you incorporate those modifications into this low fidelity prototype. Then you create a test plan, who you're going to test it with, where you're going to test it, when you're going to test it, and what information you want to get out of it, what do you want to measure. And then you test your prototype, your low fidelity prototype with 3 people that are matching your target audience as defined per your persona that you've created 2 or 3 weeks earlier. That's the homework for today. That's a lot of fun because it's the first time that you show your idea in a physical interactive test to another person, and hold yourself back, do not interfere with it. Sometimes it's very hard because you put already a lot of energy and effort into your design. Hold back, watch how your test objects are interacting with your prototype, and after you've seen it all, have an interview with them afterwards, why they did certain things the way they did it, especially the things that you didn't expect them to do. Awesome. That's how such a test for a mobile app could look like with your low fidelity prototype. Just some drafted different screens that you go through the user experience with your test object. And since we're talking about testing, we need your help as well to test one of our new products. It's our new website that we're about to release towards the end of this month. So we build a new website for Think Innovation, which is my business where I teach and facilitate design thinking and innovation. And we launched the Think Club as a free offering to all our community in Asia Pacific about 6 weeks now. So we're updating our website and we're integrating the Think Club offering onto the website, and we would love to invite you to join us as a tester for our new Think Club website. Just bear with me a second and I will pop you the link to register for the testing into the chat. And feel free to sign up for it. Sign up for it at any time, and my lovely, fantastic, most awesome team member Dimple will get in touch with you shortly. Let me get back to the presentation. Yeah, that would be awesome. So obviously all the events, might it be YouTube lives or podcasts, will be there on the website. And there will also be a resource section. So when we have templates, when we release new templates, you can download them for free on the website. Help us testing it. That would be amazing, so we can bring the best service website to you that is possible. And good stuff. Thanks for that. And for today, I want to finish the official part with this fabulous quote from Sandra Schofield. We are not beginners forever, but we never stop learning. Through the design thinking process, you learn and learn and learn, and that is good. But obviously, with each and every step of learning, you get better. So the learning will become easier over time, and it will become easier to release products and test products over time as well. So you never stop learning, but as soon as you get started, you will get better and you will achieve better results and will introduce better ideas, prototypes and products into the market. Awesome.